Welcome, brothers and future brothers, to the first Lincolnshire Freemason podcast. And today we are joined by Freemason royalty in the name of our worshipful brother, Peter Brooks, who is the Assistant Provincial Grand Master for Lincolnshire. And we'll come to you in a second, Peter, because I know an awful lot of people know you. But we're just going to come back to my co-presenters. We've got Simon Noden from Skeggy, a giant of Lincolnshire Freemasonry, top bloke. He's an all-round head of water at Anglian Water, or Seven Water, or whatever they're called this week. And we've got Pete Richardson, who's from the north end of Lincolnshire. He's big in the game when it comes to music, and what he doesn't know about music and ships ain't worth knowing. But welcome, Peter, to the Lincolnshire Freemason Podcast show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Good stuff.
Good to be here.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so boys, Simon and Pete, you are my co-presenters on this one. What do you hope, Simon? What are you hoping to get out of this podcast? What are you hoping to give the brethren of Lincolnshire and other provinces from this podcast? Because let's be honest, they're a bit two of a penny at the moment. These Freemason podcasts, aren't they?
Well, depends what you're going for. Freemasonry is at an exciting time at the moment. Social media, it's just everywhere. And I think we are living in a golden age of everything to do with social media, whether it's podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, the lot. And it's a fantastic place to be at the moment.
Good stuff. I mean, the purpose, as I said, of this podcast is primarily for people who are already Freemasons, but we're going to talk about stuff for people who are not Freemasons and what Freemasonry is about. So you can, if you're particularly interested, we can answer any questions. Let's go to Pete Richardson, who's from the north end of Lincolnshire. Pete, what are you hoping to get from this podcast and give to the people of Lincolnshire and the wider environment?
Well, I think it's really showing what we do. I think Freemasonry has always had that kind of secretive, speculative thing that's going on, and with this way we can show what we do within the area. We're certainly within Lincolnshire, and of course across the rest of the country, and in fact the world.
Well, boys and girls, I'm going to leave you a little fact about podcasts. If this podcast gets to 21 episodes, we are in the top 1% of all worldwide podcasts. So Peter Brooks, Assistant Provincial Grand Master, top bloke geezer, and all-round top man, we commit, the three of us here, that we are going to get to at least 21 episodes, boys, aren't we? It's going to be hard work. We're going to pull our teeth. We're going to pull some teeth. It's going to be awful, but we are going to do it for Lincolnshire and Freemasonry. Right. Let us dive straight in. And remember, Simon and Pete, put your hands up if you want something to ask. But Peter, you've been Assistant Provincial Grand Master now for probably, I think it's about 5 years, isn't it?
Yes, it's coming up for 5 years. I was appointed in 2018 at the same time as the province had a new Provincial Grand Master.
Okay, so for people that don't actually know this, because I know there's a lot of people that have been in Freemasonry a long time, what is the province and what is the hierarchy of the guys in London and Lincoln Province and Lincolnshire and individual Freemason lodges? How does that all work?
Well, I suppose you could liken it to a commercial organisation, whereas Freemasons Hall in London and Grand Lodge, it's like headquarters, and the Duke of Kent is the top man there, and then there are 47 different provinces across England and Wales, which more or less align to county boundaries, give or take a little, and each of those provinces also has a top man, you might say the chief executive. And in our case, that chief exec is Right Worshipful Brother David Wheeler. He has a deputy and two assistants, which form the executive, along with other key personnel. But essentially, that's how it cascades down. And obviously, there are 74, 75 lodges within the province that we oversee.
So there's in essence 4 of you, the provincial Grand Master, the Deputy Provincial Grand Master, and the 2 Assistant Provincial Grand Masters. That's, does 71 need that a number of people? Would you think it actually needs more than that in terms of the senior board?
The numbers are laid down in our rule book, which we know as the Book of Constitutions, and it's according to the numbers of members that we have, and it's decided on that basis as to how many members need how much supervision effectively.
Interesting you say supervision. How does, so basically you're the area managers, if they say, you've got head office in London, you're the area managers. When you say supervision, what do you mean by supervision of the lodges? In London, I know you have London Grand Rank, but what are you guys doing in a lodge, when someone comes down and checks the lodge out? And again, Simon and Pete, jump in if you've got any questions.
Yeah, well, what happens is that each lodge is a private lodge, but they are bound by the rule book, and they have their structure from the master of the lodge and his 2 assistants, the wardens and other various officers, and so they conduct their meetings. And of course, it's incumbent upon them, as I said, to abide by the rules laid down. And it's something that the executive follow up by way of supervision, but also support and encouragement, and to back up and be there to provide whatever help and support, information, and that we can provide.
Simon, I know you've been through the chair, which means that you turned from a brother to a worshipful brother. Yeah. What sort of support have you had from the area manager, or the province, as we would say, when you were the worship master or boss man of your lodge in your year?
I'm quite a chatty person anyway, so I tend to introduce myself to them whether they want to or not. But I've had some great support. Freemasonry has given me so many opportunities to do something like tonight. I'd never dream of doing a podcast, but opens a door, have a go. And it's the same for everybody, right from the day you join. You can look your journey towards a chair, you can plan your journey towards a chair, take however long it takes you. Some go quicker, some go slower. It's a journey, not always about the end destination.
Well, we all know what the end destination is, don't we? And those of us that are Freemasons, we know a bit more about that in one of our ceremonies, but we can't talk about that too much.
No, but it's really exciting. It's a cracking journey. And then you've got, after the chair, like now, do Facebook in the background, all the social media stuff. So many opportunities to do things that you probably wouldn't have dreamt of doing before.
Peter, back to Peter, and we'll come to you, Pete, if you put your hand up, you've got something to say. But Peter, why are Freemasons seen in a particular, light of being secretive? I mean, we all know that Freemasons have secrets, but we don't do ourselves any favors. Why do you think that is?
It's historic. It was really going back to the last World War, when Hitler had a purge against the Jews, the Gypsy fraternity, and Freemasons that he perceived to be a threat. And obviously, wanting to avoid risk of life and limb or what have you, Freemasons basically went very secretive. And that ensued until probably the 70s, early 80s. And it was then realized that scurrilous reports that were in the media giving no comment just didn't help. And so openness was the way forward, and has been ever since.
I mean, the doors certainly weren't kicked open, were they? They've been slowly opening up, haven't they, over the years? And we had the Secretary Staples, and then I know he's moved on to another job. And do you think we have been becoming more open as an organisation?
Very much so, and I think that one of the benefits, if you could say that, about COVID and the pandemic period was that we were able to demonstrate our care in the community and support of our communities, both in terms of working and voluntary work, and in terms of the financial support that we were able to give not only to individuals, both Masons and non-Masons, but also to support other charities who, because of the pandemic and being shut down, they were struggling to raise funds to support the various causes they were established for. And I'm pleased to say that during the second year of the pandemic, I think it was something like £51 million that Freemasonry gave in support of these other charities. It's nearly £1 million a week, and something that we should be justly proud of.
I'd like to go to Pete Richardson, who's one of my co-presenters. Pete, you've joined Freemasonry relatively recently compared to the other gentlemen on this call. Were you put off by the perception of secrets and everything else?
Not really. So from my side of it, I'm very fortunate that my father's in the same lodge. My elder brother, my younger brother, two of my uncles were Freemasons. So it was kind of a natural progression for me that obviously I would always see, Dad going out and thinking, where's he going with a briefcase and like you do. And it wasn't until obviously I got into being able to ask a little bit more about it and find out, that's what pushed me to want to become a Mason myself.
Well, I tell you what, boys and girls, I think that is an opportune moment to actually show a talk and listen to a short video of Worshipful Brother Gideon, who is a fantastic Lincolnshire Freemason, and he actually brought his son into Freemasonry. So what we'll do now is we'll just listen or watch, depending on whether you're listening or watching, to that wonderful video. It only lasts a minute, and we'll come back to that. Is that okay, boys?
Brother Hall, welcome to Freemasonry, your first night. How do you feel after your initiation?
Yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting. I'm not quite sure what I was expecting. Yeah, it was a really good process to go through, and very happy to be here and happy to be part of the lodge.
Fantastic. You enjoy it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Worshipful Brother Hall, dad and lad moment.
Absolutely.
And you had the pleasure of being junior deacon tonight and taking your son around the lodge on his initiation.
Yes, it's just worked well this year, and with bringing Michael in. He obviously didn't know anything about the ceremony beforehand anyway. He said, I told him that there'd be someone taking him around all the time, but didn't lead on to him that it was going to be me, which I've known for several weeks. So, yes, it was. I think I was probably more nervous than Michael before he came in, but it went well. I think everyone enjoyed it, and Michael certainly, he did what he was told. So I was happy about that. There was no thought in this part. I'll just repeat after me and trust.
Trust your dad,
yes,
like you always do. Worshipful Brother Hall, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What a fantastic night that was, and even more of a privilege to see a dad take his son round on his first. I mean, everyone says, you ask any brother who's what's your favourite job in the lodge, and there's not many that won't say junior deacon. And to be a dad and take your son round, and I had that privilege when my son joined as well. So it is a special moment that your son goes from being his son to your brother as well, and it's a wonderful evening. They had a great time. We invited Michael and Gideon to come and visit Lumley Lodge a week or so afterwards, so he got to see an initiation again. Variation of what different lodge, slightly different ceremony, of a variation of what he'd gone through himself. Cracking night.
I can remember being an initiative, and my dad been there, because at the end although he wasn't a member of the lodge that I went into, there is a little speech that he did for me at the end of the lodge that shocked me, but really felt I was included, of which, like you say, not only is he my dad, he's now my brother as well. So
Okay, I mean, Simon and Pete, how did and Simon first, how did it make you feel that you brought your brother, your son, who's now your brother, which again is really weird to outsiders, but we call each other brothers. Even women Freemasons, and there are women Freemasons, call each other's brothers. Okay, I know it's strange, but go with it. How did you feel about that?
It was just quite an emotional moment when you do that. It's hard to put into words, really. It's a special night anyway when you take someone around. As I said, it's when it's your son. even extra special, and it's a night you'll remember forever.
It certainly is. Pete, how did you feel when your dad brought you in?
Well, it was the same. I mean, I was very fortunate. My dad was a Mason. My elder brother is a Mason. My mum is a Mason, as well as as well as my younger brother. So it kind of finished as a big family. It's a family. Would you say family tradition now?
I bet the nights must just fly by when you're all practicing your ritual. Which then, outside, boys and girls, basically, again, I'm going to try and really not sell Freemasonry for you, but basically, when you join Freemasonry, there are 3 plays. They're like plays, aren't they, chaps? Yeah. About being a better human being, looking after yourself, looking after each other, looking after the community, giving charity, that sort of stuff, and learning the sciences, learning the arts, that sort of thing. And that's what Freemasonry is all about. And you just do this one of 3 ceremonies for the rest of your life. Okay, it's weird, isn't it? And if for a few years, anyone who's watching this thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy it. For the first 2 or 3 years, I didn't enjoy it. Because you do this same play over and over again. You have a different part each time. But I just think we all got busy work lives, haven't we? We've got stressful jobs nowadays. And just to do something completely left field, that you got to go and learn your lines. And it's hard work learning lines. And, boys, I don't know about you, but I really don't like my ritual. I'm quite famous for being so bad at I can stand in front of 400 people without a script for 3/4 of an hour and give a presentation without any words, but put me in front of in the ceremony and give me 200 words, and Peter, don't even agree with me, but Simon, Pete, don't come to my lodge when I'm doing Northeast Corner. I'm famously bad at it. Pete, how do you get over your fears of doing ceremony?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I'm also in another lodge based down in London. I'm actually a member of Chelsea. That is a lodge for musicians, entertainers, and actors, of which every week we have what we call a lodge of instruction, and this is where we learn all of our ritual. We learn all of the stuff that we need to learn.
You have to go down to London every week.
It's supposed to be every week. It's every Wednesday at 11 a.m.
Hold on a second. I thought Freemason was only 8 meetings a year.
We all think that sometimes, but no, it's 50 weeks of the year. It's every Wednesday at 11 a.m. in Grand Lodge in London, of which we all learn, and it's learning all the different rituals of which, and also obviously different positions of which you will take in the lodge.
Simon, you're this lodge of instruction, which is kind of like a rehearsal thing. Mm-hmm. Do you meet every week?
I should be there tonight, but I'm on here with you, Chris. every Tuesday in Skegness, we have ours.
So let's go to the boss man, Peter. Peter, every lodge can't do every week, can they? I know our lodge doesn't.
No, they don't, but there are some, and they enjoy it. And it's an informal gathering where they can partake in learning their lines. They can ask questions, get to understand it, and that makes it even more meaningful. And very often then they will depart to the bar for a swift half to
for a glass of lemonade shandy. There you go. There you go. Simon, do you enjoy doing your ritual or the ceremony?
Freemasons give me more confidence to do that. I'm not saying you don't get nervous every time. Is it nervous or is it excitement? It's a bit of both.
Okay, before we move on to the next section, anyone got any top tips to help with their ritual? Let's go with Peter Brooks first. Any top tips on learning ritual, Peter?
Yes. First of all, understand what you're trying to say. There are perhaps some archaic words that we're not familiar with in our day-to-day lives, but if you understand what they say, you can make sense of what you're learning. And then I think it's a matter of establishing what time of day is best for you. I used to find learning first thing in the morning was better because once I got busy at work, I got too tired. Some people prefer to do it in the evening. So work it out.
Indeed. Simon Noden, top tips for ritual?
How would you say a telephone number? You break it down into small chunks, and that's how you learn your ritual. You won't recite a telephone number, 11 numbers in one go. When you're giving them your mobile number, it's all little segments. That's how I learn and deliver my ritual.
And Pete Richardson, any top tips for you?
Yeah, one of the tips that I was given was to write it out. So obviously, after you're learning it, try writing it, because that is how instead of, obviously we do have the special book that we can learn from, put it aside and write, because that is then obviously it's the knowledge in your head.
Indeed.
And as well, obviously, you can then see where if there is mistakes you're making or anything, it's there for you to see.
My top tips are: number one, don't do it 2 days. Don't start doing it 2 days before, which I have been very famous for. And now I try to do it a couple of weeks before. And the other one, which really does work for me, is this: I write it out on one piece of paper, and then I actually write out the first letters of it on another piece of paper, but the lines have to match. And then what happens is that you read one, then read the other, read one and read the other. And then because your mind has to work out what the words are, it actually goes into a different part of the brain, which means it's more sticky and stays there. And if you can do that, can't do that night. I've learned that one before. Don't do it the night before. You actually have to do it 3 or 4 days in advance, and it goes deeper, and then you flow like the lava stream. Let's go back to Peter Brooks. Peter, what is your role as the Assistant Provincial Grand Master? I believe that you have 4 areas of expertise. First one is, well, let's go through them: comms, communications, membership, mentoring, and learning and development. So probably just spend a couple of minutes on each one. And Simon and Pete Richardson, put your hand up if you want to ask Peter a question.
Well, people would often joke that change, in masonry, goodness me, but everything in life evolves, and masonry is no different. And with the appointment of a new provincial Grand Master in 2018, there was change, in as much as he gave to myself, the deputy, and the other assistant a range of responsibilities. And the idea was that we would be responsible for certain areas, and we were to put together a team of people to work them forward. And that's how it's gone on. It's a team effort, and we work as a team, and I'd like to think that we've achieved a lot in the last 5 years.
So previously, before, I know we had a chap called Graham Ives. Is that right, Graham? That was his name? Yep. Was he more hands-on, and Davis almost, delegated that role to you guys so he could be a bit more executive and big picture thinking?
I think with every successive provincial Grand Master, or in any walk of life, really, people put their own stamp on things, don't they? And Graham Ives did things his way, and they worked very well. I personally have a lot to thank him for. But when Dave Wheeler took over, his management style was different, and it is very much, as I said, a team effort. And so we all have these areas of responsibility, and we work and report back to him as and when.
Simon, what have you got to ask Peter on this?
I think what Peter's just said, it's the same principle in a lodge every year. I mean, we have a new worshipful master, and again, you get a new worshipful master, you get a new personality come through, and it's the same ritual, but he delivers it in a totally different way. His team operates a completely different way.
So, Peter, let's just spend a couple of minutes on what is the value of communications and membership. Let's do those two first. I know there's a little bit of link between the two.
Well, certainly communications is everything, isn't it? Because whatever you want to get across, you have to communicate it in some way, shape or form. And we've all moved on from the pen and paper, social media, the internet, emails. I mean, at one time, emails were something of a leap, but we're all used to it now. Here we are chatting away with Zoom, which not so very long ago was unheard of. So communications is vital. If you wish to get whatever the message, you've got to get it across to one and all, then communications is the key.
But let's move on to membership, and I'd like to bring in this members pathway, which has been spoken about quite a lot in Freemasonry.
Yeah, the members pathway is a method, if you like, a toolbox, perhaps is a better description, to attract new members, retain new members. There are 4 key hubs, really. The first is for each lodge to plan their succession and to have some sort of profile of what they're about, because various lodges are made up of different people with different personalities, different pastimes, different interests. And then, yes, attract new members to grow lodges. But once you attract them, then obviously it's important that we engage with them, keep them interested, and retain their membership. And essentially, the members pathway gives us the tools to do that.
If you actually think about it, Peter, your responsibility is communications, which is getting the message out there internally and externally. Membership is then to get the buggers in. Mentoring is then to keep them in, and then learning and development to make sure if they're still in is that they're learning and developing themselves as decent human beings.
Indeed, yes. And at the same time, enjoying it and having fun, because that's what it's for. We are to enjoy ourselves. We can have a smile on our face. At the same time, one likes to think improving and becoming better people.
I think this is a great opportunity to show a couple of videos that our esteemed colleague Simon Noden did when he went to a lodge where a chap called Paul Lincoln was being made what's called the Worshipful Master, which in essence is the boss man of the lodge for the year. And it's interesting that we talk about, once you've been through the chair, that some people get a little bit bored. So after this video, I'd like us to talk about how worshipful masters who've been through the chair can keep their interest up after going through the chair. Because let's be honest, on the way up, it's, you know, you're moving up the escalator and doing the jobs. Then all of a sudden you were the top dog, and now all of a sudden, humbly and nicely, you're cast aside on the waste heap of sitting to the side and waiting for the jobs to come along. So let's go and have a look at that.
Paul Lincoln, 2 hours, you're going to be the new worshipful master of Lincolnshire Lodge. How are you feeling?
Nervous.
Nervous.
I'm excited.
Excited. Let's get through the ceremony and we'll catch up in a couple of hours.
Nervous, excited, not sure. You know, but you had the guys around you giving you that sort of warm hand around your shoulder going, it'll be all right. You're really going to enjoy this.
Okay, but we're not talking about you getting a pint, you having to put your hand in your pocket to buy a pint. What were you just describing there, Simon? Was that you before you were going into the chair?
Before going into the chair. Yeah, but I had some great guys around me, a lot of experienced Freemasons going, you're going to love it.
Good stuff. But I tell you what, let's go and watch and listen to him once he's actually been through the ceremony, which again I've not been through, but I've been told is amazing.
Let's find out if he did love it.
Here we go.
So, Paul Lincoln, you're now worshipful master of Lindsay Lodge. How does it feel?
Relief.
Relief.
I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
A little bit more work to do in the festive board.
Looking forward to a great year in the chair.
Oh, definitely.
All right. On behalf of Lincolnshire Freemasons social media team, congratulations, Paul.
Thank you very much.
It's certainly that wow factor when you sit in that big chair for the first time as worshipful master. You look down the lodge and you've got at least 60 faces looking up at you and going, you're now in charge. What are you going to do?
You're going to get your big hammer out, aren't you, Peter?
Yeah, I remember it well. It was a long time ago, 2001 actually. But yeah, it was very special, and you feel immense pride at being in that chair and head of the lodge for that year. Wonderful.
Good stuff. Yeah, Pete, what have you got to add?
Well, I do have to ask Peter. Obviously, I've not been fortunate yet to be able to go through and sit in the chair. But for people that are working their way up, what kind of tips would you give us to be able to obviously be ready to be able to take that chair?
That's a great question there, Pete. Thanks for asking. Peter.
Yeah. Well, I think that if you hack it as the deacon, then you'll have nothing to worry about. because the deacon has been alluded to earlier. The main man walking around the lodge with the new member, and if you're happy doing that, you've enjoyed doing that, by the time you get to be in the master's chair, you'll see what's happening, where they are, what they're doing. Just relax and enjoy it, soak it all in, and make the most of it, because as you'll have been told and you will hear, it goes very quickly, and it certainly does.
Peter and Simon, just very quickly before we move on to talk about Jonathan Spence moving Freemasonry forward in this decade, what would your message be to those Freemasons who've been through the chair and feel a bit lost?
Well, I would say that there are lots of other opportunities. There are other offices in the lodge, be it the secretary, the chaplain, the almoner, the charity steward, director of ceremonies. There are many other roles that you could take on, and albeit that some people, particularly the secretary and the treasurer, perhaps they should be sat there for maybe 5 years doing that, but others can rotate more readily. Make it known that that's what you'd like to do. Don't be shy about it.
Simon?
I'm really fortunate to be in quite a forward-thinking lodge. So even up to a couple of years before I'd have been through the chair, I knew my next steps once I had been, and ended up being the lodge mentor. So that was already pre-planned, in the next part of my journey after being Word for Master. And we continue that now. We've got the guy who's the current junior warden. He's already stated, I want to be a future DC in this lodge, and we're coaching and preparing him for them steps, which could be another 3 or 4 years down the line before he becomes that role.
Do you need to be good at ritual to be a good DC person?
I'd say you've got to be consistent, and you've got to. It's like your job, isn't it? You know your job.
Yes. Okay.
So you've got to learn the tools of your trade.
A good understanding of the ceremonies helps.
Good stuff. I won't put my name down for that one. I have skill sets everywhere else. Peter, I'd like you to move on to talk about Jonathan Spence's, who's the program master. So the boss man of Freemasonry, brother, and visitors, is the Duke of Kent, but obviously that is more of a non-executive role. He comes into the ceremonies and gives some direction, but fundamentally more of a chairman role. The actual person is the CEO, is a chap called Jonathan Spence, who is our program master. And he set up this new strategy for Freemasons, Peter. Could you share with us a little bit about that and what difference it will make to Freemasonry?
Well, we hope it will make a big difference, but essentially what it is, it's making people aware of the fact that for various reasons over the recent years, the numbers in Freemasonry have actually declined. And it's partly demographics, but the strategy is to make people aware of that and how we can look at ourselves, improve and encourage and attract new members. And as I said, once we've attracted new members, how we can engage with them and keep them involved.
Simon, what do you do at your lodge to both attract and retain Freemasons?
Keep it interesting. We're very open that we're Freemasons. Just a few weeks ago, we was out in a bar in Skegness, like Freemasons do. We was out. I have a jacket, and it's got a square and compass embroidered on the breast of it. And a chap asked one of the guys that he goes, "Is your mate a Freemason?" He went, "Yeah, we all are." "Oh, I'm an unattached member, and I've just moved to the area." It was, there's a ready-made member who's just moved to Skegness and who should be joining one of the Skegness lodges.
Pete, what anything you're doing at your lodge?
I think the same. He's trying to keep everything fresh, keep everything, together. We, rather than it just being, of course, we all have our meetings that are 8 times a year as the normal one is, but doing things outside of lodge meetings. How, I know this year obviously we have a hog roast every year that consists of all the Masonic lodges within our building. So our building, I'm based in Crowell, that's in North Lincolnshire, and we have a hog roast where it's open to all lodges, as well as obviously family as well. So it's good to be able to have that communication outside of lodge as well.
Simon, what have you got to add to this?
I think so. The social media has made Freemasonry a lot more open to the people who are not Freemasons as well. So it gives them an insight into what we do, the great things we do for charity, and the fun we have. You see the different things when we go to the, Masons and Motors, Freemasons go flying, and people who are non-Freemasons are welcome to join us on those events and come and ask us and ask, what do you do?
So no, there's a centre in the south of Lincolnshire who have basically they get all the younger lads from all the different Freemason lodges, and every 6 or 8 weeks they go out for a meal. And what they almost do is, instead of the problem with Freemasonry is that it's not something you can go along and have a look at, is it, boys? You've got to join to see. So what they do is they invite people along for a beer and a meal every 6 or 8 weeks, and get to introduce the lads. And you come along for like 6 or 12 months to see if you'd like it. And then if you do, you meet the lads, you meet what we're all about. And then instead of trying to sell it to them, people want to buy it. And it's a huge difference in marketing, selling versus getting people to buy. And I think Freemasons could learn a lot from general marketing principles of being an attraction, sell the sizzle, not the sausage. Because, actually, this is an absolute opportune time to we've interviewed a chap called Brother Crow. We've asked him, or Simon, what Freemasonry is to him. So I tell you what we're going to do. Let's go and watch that video, and then we can all come back and talk about what Freemasonry means to us. How's that, chaps?
So, Brother Crow, now companion Richard Crow, exalted into Lumley chapter. Can you tell me in 1 minute what Freemasonry means to you?
I think it's the companionship and the people that you meet. I was raised into the 3rd degree in November. Obviously, I had a few people telling me that there was more to learn. And I just thought, let's see what there is.
And if you was going to ask someone about joining Masonry, what would you say?
Yeah, it's interesting. Don't hesitate. There's maybe a lot of secrecy, and people think it's a bit, like I say, secret. But it's more just men getting together with common interests and getting to know each other.
Richard, thank you very much. You've been the star of the show this evening.
Good interview there, Simon. I tell you what, you could do that for a living, mate, if there's no money in water. Let's go to Pete Richardson first. What's Freemasonry to you, mate?
Freemason to me is, I think, Brother Crow, I think, answered it. The biggest companionship. I'm very fortunate that I'm in the lodge with half of my family. So not only obviously to be able to have your family there to support you, as well obviously as you progress through your Freemason journey, it's also learning and being able to interact and meet people that you would probably never ever think of meeting. The great thing with obviously Freemasonry is we all sit in the lodge, and a lot of people do different jobs though you would never normally see in kind of Civvy Street. You would never know. I'm very fortunate in Chelsea to be able to meet some of the the celebrities that are within Freemasonry that you would never ever expect to be able to sit there, of which, as we all know, that with structure, there's people that I'm higher than within Freemasonry, but you see them on telly every single day.
There you go, eh? There you go. Simon, what does being a Freemason mean to you?
For me, it's probably a lifestyle choice. If you stick to the principles of Freemasonry, you won't go wrong. Love you all. I've got my wife behind me who backs me in with what we do with Freemasonry.
Well, she told me the only reason she likes you going is so she gets the telly to herself and watch a bit of Corrie.
There is that, but when we go to these Masonic events, they've even formed their own group called the Lumley Ladies, and they've got the little bags that they have that they take out with them with it on, and they're proud to be Masonic wives.
But come back. What does it really mean to you, apart from getting out of the house?
I just reiterating what Peter says. It's you're meeting all the different people you'd never normally meet. I'm a social creature. I like to meet different people. I'm nosy. I like to find out what they do. What are you doing? Not in Freemasonry, but away from that. And it's again the friendships that you form and the places that you get to visit is fantastic.
Peter Brooks, what does Freemasonry mean to you?
Well, I think as it's a question that you could ask a dozen people and probably get a dozen different answers. But I wouldn't disagree with what's already been said. It's a great leveler. We all meet as equals, and you do get to meet so many different people from varied walks of life, different backgrounds, different interests. As Peter's just said, the kind of folk that you wouldn't ordinarily get to meet in your everyday lives. And I think too that certainly from my own point of view, it's given me confidence. I can now, like you, Chris, can stand up and talk to a room full of people about whatever, which I would never have dreamt of doing before. So from that point of view, I found it very beneficial. And it is fun. I do enjoy it. It is a hobby, but the more you get into it, the more it becomes a way of life.
Just any top tips, when I sold this to the wife, it was 8 meetings a year, and I think I'd used my 8 meetings up by the end of February. Any top tips to keep the wives happy, boys? Anything before we move on? Don't put all your hands up at once. All right, we won't. Peter, go on. Oh,
yeah.
Go on.
Openness and honesty. I mean, as I think Simon alluded to, if you haven't got the support of your other half, then you're nowhere. No. And I've been very fortunate over the years to have 100% support from my wife, and I try to give her as much support in her interests as well.
And I hope she likes ironing white shirts, because to be honest with you, if you're out 2-3 nights a week, you've got loads of white shirts. Pete Richardson, top tips.
I'm very lucky. I'm single.
I'm ready to mingle.
So for me, it's fantastic. So for me, all I ever think is, well, at least I'm going to get a good feed this week.
That's good stuff. And any top tips from you, Simon?
Enjoy it. Just enjoy it, every minute of it.
Good stuff. We've done that question, mate. What top tips on your missus?
On the missus?
Listen to his.
On the missus, just look after, like Peter says, just make sure you're giving something back as well.
Bless you. So, okay, boys and girls, let's move on to the last part of the show. And Lincolnshire have a big powwow every May, the provincial Grand Lodge meeting at the Lincolnshire Showground. This will be coming out before that meeting. Peter Brooks, what can we expect from that meeting?
You can expect a gathering of 400 to 600 people, some excellent ceremonial, some very happy people who are receiving promotions and appointments within the order, and a very nice lunch in between.
What more could you ask? If anyone wants to go along to that, your secretary should have emailed you or spoken to you in Lodge to join that. I think you have to be a Master Mason, don't you, Peter?
Yes.
Good stuff. So anyone who is an entered apprentice or fellowcraft, don't you worry, you'll have plenty of opportunity to go next year and the rest of your years until your dying day. And it'll be the same meeting as it always is. But that's the beauty of Freemasonry, boys and girls, is that we try and perfect something that can never be perfect. Okay. We've now come to the end of the show. I'd like to thank Peter Brooks, firstly on behalf of the province, for your sterling work in the last 5 years. I know you are going to be passing the baton on in May, aren't you? Are you? I know, Simon, you've got a nickname for people who passing the baton on, haven't you?
Have
I? The people.
Well, I know. In the north of the county, people tend to be referred to as a wazzer.
Oh, what? There you go. Do you know, Simon? Yeah. I give you an open goal, and you don't.
Oh,
don't
I mean, Peter told me that one as well the other week, that he were a wazzer.
You know. Well, yeah. What? You know, you've lost me for words now, which is very rare. Which is extremely rare. What are you looking forward to when you pass the baton over?
Well, I'm looking forward to perhaps a little more time to myself, a little less responsibility, but the Provincial Grand Master has asked me to join with a few others on the strategy working group for the province to take it forward, which I shall be pleased to do my part. But at the same time, I've thoroughly enjoyed the privilege and the pleasure of being Assistant Provincial Grand Master for 5 years, and it'll be good to pass that on and give someone else an opportunity to enjoy what I've enjoyed. And I'm sure that they will take it forward. And I know that the teams that were working with me will continue to work with my successor, and he's inheriting an excellent team.
Who is your successor, and what top tips would you give him?
Well, my successor will be Worshipful Brother David Bird, who's in the north of the county. As for top tips, I've no need to give him any tips and advice. He's already held senior executive positions within the province, and so I'm sure that with his experience and knowledge, he will, as I say, take it forward, and I'll be pleased to see that and give him whatever support I can if called upon.
That's great news. I'd like to go to Pete first and then Simon. What's your biggest one takeaway from today's podcast that you've learned that you can share with the people listening and watching?
I think the big one is that that Freemasonry is very open. We've sat here for the last hour and talked about things that people think are the secrets, or and Freemasonry is the secret. We're very open. We're very passionate people about this fraternity, as you could call it.
This merry band of men.
Very.
Peter Brooks.
Yeah, I would just like to add that this talk about secrecy, it's not secret, it's private, and all organisations, all companies, they all have private business. They have committees, they have boardrooms or recipes for what makes up Coca-Cola or Marmite or something, and that's private. And what we have goes on it's private, but it's not secret.
Well, in future podcasts, whilst we can't actually give you the secrets, which I'll be warning you, boys and girls, are quite boring, aren't they, boys? The actual things themselves. The magic thing is that being a better human being is you give your word, and when someone says something in private to you that you don't give away, that is the secret. The secrets are some boring words and some other actions but you give your word as a man that you do that. Yeah. Maybe in future podcasts, we can actually delve down a little bit deeper without giving any of the secrets away, why Freemasons have these secrets. And as I said, they are quite boring, and actually when you explain them to people, why they go, oh, I see why you do that. So Peter, absolutely spot on. We'll probably have you back another meeting. Well, we'll get some other people in, and we'll probably have you back on. Tell you what, Simon, make a note of it. We will get Peter back on episode 21, because we have promised we are going to be in the top 1% of the whole world of podcasts. We are going to make it. We're going to make it at least to episode 21. Okay. Simon Noden, what's your big takeaway from today?
If you want to know more about Freemasonry, ask us.
Yeah.
Can't say better than that. I want to say thank you, Peter. Thank you, Pete, and thank you, Simon, for both being interviewed and being interviewing. So thank you for that. But I want to say thank you to our listeners and watchers who you've invested nearly an hour of your time in this podcast or video. Thank you for your time. I hope that's been useful to you. And you have my word, Simon's word, and Pete's word under the accountability of the Assistant Provincial Grand Master, Peter Brooks, that we will get at least to episode 21. We intend to put one of these out every 3 or 4 weeks-ish, We're going to see how we get on. We should be able to get better at it when we know what we're doing. This is the first one. We hope we haven't made too much of a hash of it, and we'll see you on episode 2. Thanks very much, everyone.